and welcome to another weekly update. Hope you're doing well. We're starting to think about getting into conference season a little bit. There's a couple of things coming up I want to tell you about real quick before we get into the things that have been happening this week. So at the end of this month, we've got the inaugural, I believe, Microsoft Power Platform Conference. So this is going to be interesting. It's a conference, it's in person, it's fully focused on the Microsoft Power Platform. It's in Florida. It's September 20th to the 22nd. There's workshops in and around that as well. It's not organised by Microsoft, but there are an awful lot of Microsoft speakers attending. So you can go and check out the session list and the attendee or the speaker list to see who those people are. I've got it open in front of me right now, so I can tell you it's people like Charles Lamanna, Jeff Teeper, Scott Hanselman, Donna Sarkar. The names you will have heard, Caruana Gatimu is there. Lots of other names. The problem with Scott Hunter, the problem with calling out people's names is that I invariably miss people, which is I didn't mean to do. I'm sorry. It's just I'm just trying to call out the really kind of key people that you will have heard of. So lots and lots of kind of important people in Microsoft, influential people in Microsoft, talking about the Power Platform. I think this is interesting as a conference. It's not organised by Microsoft. Now, normally I wouldn't really care so much about that. The reason I do care slightly this time around is that I think that might mean that there's not necessarily a lot of the content available to those who are not attending in person. So I don't know how much of it is going to be live streamed. I don't know how much of it is going to be made available. I'm not saying it won't be. I just don't know. I haven't seen it anywhere on their website. We'll find out together. If it is going to be live streamed, then obviously I'll be watching it and bringing you any announcements or information that have come out of the sessions. But it might be one that you have to be there in person to kind of get the announcements on. I don't know. We'll have to find out and wait and see. I will ask the organisers and see if they know as well. So that's happening. And then sort of a little bit after that, kind of around about Ignite timeframe, which is also happening very soon, is the South Coast Summit. So that's happening in the UK in Southampton, and that's all across Microsoft Cloud Technologies. So I'm going to be there at that, covering that with video and blog posts and whatever else. So that should be fun. That is October the 13th to the 15th, and that coincides slightly with Ignite as well, so much so that they're doing a Ignite watch party as well on the Thursday, I believe, which is the day before it starts. You should probably check on that. But I'm going to be there for that as well, so I should probably check on that also. And obviously we've got Microsoft Ignite as well, which, as we know, is not... It sort of is in person, actually. You can get in-person tickets, but kind of limited. It kind of all happened at the last minute. But we know for Ignite, we know all the sessions are going to be streamed. They're going to be available on demand. So the setup for Ignite now for remote attendees is really, really strong. And actually, it's interesting. It's because it's so strong, it's interesting to compare it against a non-Microsoft conference that, even though it's not Microsoft, has an awful lot of Microsoft speakers. So it's sort of becoming a Microsoft conference, maybe, but we kind of expect that level of connectivity, I suppose. All right, let's talk about the things that have been happening this week. And this is a good week for people who want to start being a developer on the Microsoft 365 stack, who want to get into, let's say you're already a developer, but you just want to understand a little bit more about becoming a Microsoft 365 developer. There's a good jumping off blog post actually by Gary Trinder that's out this week, going through, not in any specific technical detail, but just telling you some of the tools and some of the services that you might not have known about that are available to you, such as the Microsoft 365 Developer Program, which gives you a fully populated developer tenant that you can use for free to build things in and to use as a kind of sandbox. I've talked about it before, but if you're coming into this world, that's the sort of stuff you need to know. You need to know where the learning paths are. You need to know what the fundamentals are. And Gary covers all of this stuff, including certification, community, how you stay up to date. Covers it really nicely in this blog post. So I'll put a link to that. So that if that's you and you're thinking about becoming a Microsoft 365 developer, go check out Gary's blog post because it's a really good place to get started. All right, so something we've talked about previously is the ability, this is in Microsoft Teams now, the ability for the things that work in meetings, such as tabs, such as bots that do things in meetings and show task dialogues, such as the stage. Some of those things, we've talked about the ability for them to come to voice over IP calls. Now, it was announced maybe a couple of months ago now, I can't remember. It's shown up again in the Microsoft 365 roadmap because it is now rolling out. So previously, I think it was all still in development and we weren't quite sure of the timelines. It's now rolling out. So it takes a while for features like this to roll out. It rolls out across the world, tenant by tenant, sector by sector. If there's any problems, it gets rolled back. So the process of launching, if you like, a new feature like this does take a little bit of time, but it is that moment has come. So from now, you may start to see it show up in your tenants, which is exciting, meaning that some of the applications that you built for meetings will also now be available for voice over IP calls. So that's good news, right? Next up, less good news, I guess, if you're using it, is Microsoft Scheduler Service. So the thing that we used to call calendar.help, the Cortana-based, hey, find me a meeting between these two people next Tuesday at 7, that sort of thing. That became a paid service a little while ago. Microsoft are actually going to turn it off, even though it's a paid service. So even if you're paying for it, it's going to go away soon. Not soon, I mean a year from now. So kind of soon, I guess, but they have to announce these things early on. So yeah, that's a bit of a shame because it does feel like part of the future, if you like. It's a very kind of futuristic, very cool application of technology, application of AI and NLP and all the rest of it. So it is a shame that it's going away. There is sort of something a bit similar called Find Time in Outlook. It's not quite as cool. It doesn't use quite so much AI and tech and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of a bit of a shame. But I guess Microsoft are driven more by telemetry and money and all these things, and that makes sense, right? I'm not saying it's the wrong decision; it's the right decision, I imagine, for Microsoft. But it's interesting that it's an interesting reminder that the technology, what you can do technically, is not always what people want to do. And although everybody likes to moan about how complicated it is to find meeting times, turns out that we don't want to use a service to do it for us, and that's just the way it is. So yeah, I don't know, like, it does seem a shame, but we still have Find Time, so that's something. Back to the Microsoft 365 roadmap, something that is in development that is really welcome, actually, and that's the ability to, let's try and succinctly do this before we run out of time. When you're looking in the Teams Admin Center, when you have different policies and you have different users assigned to those policies, it's actually quite hard at the moment to look at a particular policy and find out how many users are assigned to that policy. The only thing you can really do at the moment is look at a user and see the policies they are assigned to. There's no real way of going the other way around. I feel this because policies also impacts things like app setup policies, so the types of apps users can see, and also the layout policies, I can't remember what that's called, that shows and impacts the apps that users see on the left-hand rail. So I see this quite a lot, and yes, it is a real pain that you create a policy, add some users to it, and then you don't know which users have the policy and which users don't have the policy. So if there's a way of fixing that, I'm all for that. But I mean, it went into the roadmap this week. It's in development. It's still got a GA date of September, so who knows? It might be an Ignite announcement, maybe. We'll have to wait on that and see. But yeah, it's interesting. It's in the roadmap now, so I'm all for this. I think this is a great idea. You could argue it should have been there from the beginning, but that doesn't matter. It is what it is. Yeah, good news. All right, that was a bit of a rush because I meandered at the beginning. Yeah, so whatever it is you're doing this week, have a good one. More information on conferencing and all the rest of it coming up soon. But in the meantime, have a good week, and I will talk to you again next time.